And today we are interviewing our very own Director of Student Life, religion teacher, and Commissioner of the North Catholic Madness ESPN League, Mr. Isaac Summers. Mr. Summers, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure, guys. I'm glad to be back. This is, we're going to be a perennial thing.
Yes.
Year after year. Even after you guys graduate, I'll still
keep
be
on
doing
coming back,
I'll
yes.
still be doing this segment.
To start off, explain to us what North Catholic Madness is all about and what the funds are benefiting.
Great, yeah, that's awesome. In the years past, we started this 3 years ago. Actually, maybe 4 years ago now. I can't remember exactly. When I became Director of Student Life, I became in charge of the North Catholic, mission trips. And so they had been doing a bracket previously, but I wanted to blow it up, make it a little bit bigger. And so what happens now is we do a bracket challenge, $5 or $10 for a bracket, $15 for multiple, and then you can go up to the scale. And half the proceeds will go towards funding the mission trip. And then the other half, 40% of the total money is given to the first place winner bracket, and then 10% is given to the second place winner of the bracket. And this year, the winner will receive $280, and the second place winner will receive $70. And we've raised like $350 for mission trip. Now we're not going on a mission trip this year. There was still some concerns on whether or not we could do trips during the summer. Now we found out when Max came off in March, it's like, oh, we could have done it, but it's too late to throw anything together now. But come next summer, we'll be planning for more mission trips in the future during the summertime. So the proceeds that go here will go to fund next year's towards the students, some financial stability for the students.
And what do those mission trips pertain?
So usually it's a week-long mission trip. In the last one that we did, we went to an island called Grenada in the Caribbean. It's pretty much the furthest south on the Caribbean you can get. So I like to say it's off the coast of Colombia, South America, right? So it's a couple hundred miles off that coast. And they go for a week. I don't know if we'll go back there again. It was a great experience when I went. But ultimately what happens, we go for a week. During that week, the organization that we work with sets up work sites for us, and we go in and we paint homes or build homes. We interact with orphanages and children and things of that nature, right? And so that was our international mission trip. We're also looking to start a domestic mission trip, which means stateside. So to go to like an inner city somewhere, and or maybe just in the Pittsburgh area, to the poor of the Pittsburgh area, and help out there. So the future's bright. Where exactly we're going in next summer, we're not exactly sure, but it is a fun pastime and tradition for North Catholic kids to give back to the community in that way.
So back to the bracket.
Yeah.
What are the standings looking like right now?
All right, so right now, oh boy, our illustrious history teacher, Miss Genevieve Burke, she stands at the top of the bracket. Now, the interesting thing with Miss Burke is her champion is eliminated, right? So she had, as I think a lot of people, most of the people, like our boy Alex here, had Gonzaga going all the way, and I think Gonzaga's loss definitely put a dent in her bracket. But she had a lot of the she in her first round, she had 270 points, so that means she only missed out of 32 games. She only missed. Let's do the math there. 5 games, which is
impressive.
That's
impressive.
Really good. Yeah, that is, and that was the best I think out of anybody. Yeah, looking through there, and then so that benefited her second round games, and I think even her Final Four is pretty good. So she's actually still in the running for tying for first place, even though she doesn't have. And we'll talk about that scenario whenever we get to the people that are a couple more people who could win it all. But so Miss Burke is number 1 at the top, and in second place right now is Miss Maycar. And I have all I do is win. Maycar is her name. I do not know. Let's see. Gonzaga's eliminated, but it looks like she could. Let's see, because she is Villanova, Kansas. Wait a second. Oh yeah, that's right. So she missed. So she could get some more points, but I do not think she can win.
She couldn't pass up Miss
She
Burke.
can't win.
Yeah, she cannot win. And I don't even think she can get second place. So I don't think I think she is effectively eliminated from any money. The people that could win, though, right? The people we have Luke Rinker, who I'd say, and Alex's last resort. All right, we got to talk about Alex's last resort.
That's me.
But Luke Rinker, if Duke wins, Luke
last resort.
Rinker is going to win it all, right? And I don't think you can pass Alex. You cannot pass him, right?
No.
No. Yeah, at this point,
I cannot. He's up 20 points. He's got the same Final Four winners.
as you
Same
do.
championship,
Yeah, same
yeah.
championship. So Luke Rinker, he for a lot of people, he might be in the driver's seat. He actually has the most total amount of points that anybody available to him left. For anybody in the bracket, and so he if Duke wins, it really depends on who's going to win the tournament.
It does.
Right, because Miss Burke is going to be dependent on whether or not Villanova wins the tournament or North Carolina.
Yeah.
Or sorry, not Villanova, North Carolina. She's going to be dependent on whether North Carolina wins the tournament. Luke is going to depend on Duke, and you would move into second place, Alex, as a repeat from last year. Right?
Yes, it would be. Yes.
Who won last year was Owen Schessler.
Owen Schessler. Yes.
Owen Schessler. Yeah. So.
Schessler.
So yeah. Yes. Schessler. Yeah. I can't.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I think so. I apologize, Owen.
Yeah, Owen. I know
Yes.
you're listening out there. Sorry about that, but you got the money, so you don't care.
Yes.
And then in the case that Kansas win, our own Doc. Mr. Daniel Doherty would rise above, and if Kansas were to win, he would take home the pot with Matty Hurry being in second place. If Kansas were to take it all, I would. My Read Your Bible bracket, right? Read your Bible, everybody at home. My Read Your Bible bracket would end up in third if Kansas were to win.
How many brackets did you put in?
I put in two. I put in two
as well.
Yeah.
Brian only put in one, and his explanation for only putting in one is pretty strong. Can you tell us that?
Tell me more.
Like, I just put in one because I feel like if I put in two, it's like cheating. Like, someone asks you, did you have them in your bracket? You say, yeah, I had them, but you actually had them in your bracket that you put as like a backup bracket.
So you have too much personal pride.
He does. He's a lot of pride. I'm shameless in my bracket.
Yeah, that's right. That's
I'll
right.
take two.
If you give me a deal, give me $5 extra, I'll get another. And for both of us, our second bracket is the best one, right?
Because my first one was Gonzaga. This one is Duke.
Yeah, and
So
my first one was Arizona, and that one actually.
That was up there.
That one
was
did
up
really well, and then Arizona lost to Houston, which I was really scared of. But we can talk about that in a half minute. Let's see. Actually, where did it? Oh my goodness, it has fallen. Because I actually was with Miss Burke at the first round. I only missed 5 games in the beginning too, and then I haven't gotten a point. I didn't get a point in the Sweet 16.
You're 38. You're 38.
Yeah, I know, because I
did
did not get a point in the Elite Eight. I was everything was gone after that. St. Peter's really busted my bracket, which we'll talk about. And then finally, the dark horse. If in the instance that Villanova were to come out on top, our own Father Jeff Craig would take home all the money. Jeff Craig. And I had a conversation with, on the Thursday, we had Mass, it was St. Patrick's Day. I had a conversation with Father Jeff. And he was like, who do you have winning it all? And I said, I have, Arizona winning it all. And he said, who, and he asked me, I asked him, who do you have winning it all? He said, Villanova. And I told him point blank, they're not making it out of the second round. And boy, was I wrong. Because I had seen Villanova play in their conference tournament, and I wasn't impressed by. I didn't watch any college basketball until the conference tournaments this year. Whoops. But
there were a lot of teams that didn't impress in that.
Yeah,
Providence looked
that's true.
in that.
Well, I mean,
then
keep talking.
Providence looked terrible in the tournament. They ended up winning 2 tournament games by big margins as well.
Right, exactly. And it's very interesting because. This year has been really interesting for college basketball because if you remember, there was the first time this ever happened, like where in the same day, all top 5 teams lost at one point. I think it was like in January or February, all top. And so it's like, who could you trust? Obviously, I guess Kansas, but or Duke. But that's another thing we can talk about. What about you guys? End of an era, right? With Coach K.
I know. How about that? I mean, I'm okay with this ending. I think at this point, I think Duke has to win. At this point, you got North Carolina again.
Yeah.
You got them right where you want them.
Right, because they lost to them in the conference
yes,
tournament.
on Coach K's special day.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
That was his last home game at Cameron Indoor, and you get him again. And I think this is the time where you take him out behind the barn and beat him up.
I think that's very. I think that's
another thing. Father Jeff had St. Mary's in his Final Four. St. Mary's. So he went with his Catholic teams.
Yeah, right, right.
To get in the because Villanova's that's a Catholic school, right?
That is a Catholic school. Yes, it is indeed. And then we were talking about it before or afterwards, and he's like, I should have gone with St. Peter's. He was tempted, he said, to go with St. Peter's, but he did not. And that ultimately is the surprise of the tournament. Did you guys watch any of those games where St. Peter's was playing?
I was disgusted by Kentucky's effort.
That
was terrible.
I had them in my Final Four. And,
I think I saw ESPN said like 33% of brackets had Kentucky in their Final Four.
because they had an easy path.
They did.
Like,
Yeah.
because
Right.
Purdue wasn't that overpowering. They would have had to play them.
Right.
And then they would have had to face the 8 seed in UNC in the Elite 8, which would have.
Yeah. And so I think that's actually something I've noticed of watching the tournament over the years and who I could trust. And, you can't trust Coach Calipari.
No.
You cannot trust him in the tournaments. There's some. I mean, he's won the tournament before. He's had incredible teams, and they've just won. But there have been years, and even years outside of the tournament, where they lost to like Robert Morris and whatnot.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah. Where they'll just take a first round exit and just be like, okay, like it's just like, oh, all right, moving on to next year. And so Kentucky is one of those teams where it's like, you got to be careful with them whenever you pick them each year in the Final Four.
If he gets any bonus for like getting in the March Madness each year, like he should pay his money back until he gets to at least the Sweet 16.
We know where all the money's going to college coaches.
I know,
It's from those shoe deals. I mean, anyway, moving forward.
Adidas.
What were some games what was a game that besides St. Peter's though? Because they ended up losing to North Carolina. What were some upsets that surprised you guys?
And he had this one, but it surprised me: Arkansas over Gonzaga.
Really? Okay. Go ahead.
I just thought Arkansas was a really tough team. I liked how they played last year, Eric Musselman. And Gonzaga, I don't know. It's something about them you just don't trust them because they're not in a good conference.
Right.
They beat up on bad teams all year. They lost to St. Mary's, I think, by a lot.
And did St. Mary's make a first round exit?
They won their first game. Then they lost to UCLA. But something about Arkansas I just really liked. I don't know exactly why. It's just I thought they were a tough team that could have.
Yeah, and I think SEC teams this year have disappointed, but except for Arkansas. Except for Arkansas.
He had Tennessee. He had Tennessee winning it all.
Yeah. Oh, did you? Oh, that's rough. And they were second round. They lost to Michigan. Yeah.
But I had Auburn in my Final Four.
I think I did too. Yeah.
ACC's been the surprise. They're supposed to be a down year, and they had 3 teams in the Elite 8. No other conference had 1.
Right, or more than one. Yeah. No, that's
more than one.
Yeah, no, but and then they have 2 in the final, or the 2 in the Final Four, and guaranteed 1 in the championship, right?
Yep.
And so that's I agree with the sentiment that SEC disappointed. ACC showed that they were still a good basketball conference. I think Big Ten really disappointed this year.
Oh, that was terrible.
Big
Ten was terrible.
What was it? Just Michigan making it to the
Sweet 16?
Sweet 16, and then
Purdue made it.
Iowa State, but did Iowa make it? I don't think
Iowa did not.
Iowa lost to Richmond.
Round.
I actually got the Spiders on that one.
You got the Richmond
Spiders? I called
Spiders?
the Spiders on that one.
North Catholic alum playing on the Richmond Spiders.
I heard that, yes.
Isaiah Wilson. He whenever I first started, it was his last year here. So about 5 years ago, he was a freshman and sophomore year, and then he went on to Love Quest. I can't remember what the school is called, but now he plays for Richmond. I think there was another alum from I think Isaac DiGregorio was a walk-on at Kentucky. Like he was just sitting on the bench. He's not doing anything. I think that's the case. I don't know if that's true 100%. And then in the girls' side, we have Sam Breen, who would have been a senior in 2017 or 2018. I can't remember. She was a senior this year for UMass, and they actually won the A10. And she won Player of the Year for the Atlantic 10 Conference. So
wow.
North Catholic basketball representing out there.
Yes.
Right. But back to the bracket.
Yes. Gonzaga, can they ever be trusted?
No,
again?
Absolutely not.
They can't be trusted.
Absolutely. Have they won they won it all? No, they have
never.
Mark Few.
I've talked about this. I've talked about this a couple of times. Mark Few, 24 years. He's like last 24 tournaments, except the year there wasn't a tournament, like for COVID. He's made it every year to the tournament.
Good for him.
And he's not. But he hasn't won it.
Oh no, I agree.
But he hasn't won it once.
But say let's just play the game. He gets fired. That's not going to happen. I don't think.
No,
he
won't.
But just say he did. How many teams are going to pick up Mark Few? Every single team is going to be like, I want Mark Few, because they'll be like, we'll just give you the players you need because we're a Big Ten or whatever, we're a Power 5 school.
But I don't know how he can be considered like a Hall of Fame coach
I know.
without winning anything more than a Western Conference Is that what is it? The WCC? What does that stand for? It's like
Western Coast Conference,
Coast-
West Coast,
yeah.
West Coast Conference, something like that. What did he make the finals last year? I wonder how many
did.
finals.
Championship. I mean,
I know, but he's never
He's
won.
a successful coach. He's been good. Alex asked me this interesting question. He said, "Would you rather make it 24 years, or not make it 23 years and then win the national championship? What would you rather?"
Oh, I don't know.
I feel like-
all right, for your legacy, for terms of legacy, right? If you're like, I want to be remembered, you want the 24 tournament. I think.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I just want to, I don't know. I could see like, if I just want to say I'm a national, here, check out this ring. I am a national championship winning coach, and I was just like, this is just about right here and now. I think I'd take that.
And I don't think Mark Few. Like I said this, like Dan Marino, I know he never won.
Right, he never won
a championship.
Uh-huh.
But he's still
an
considered one of the best
all-time great.
quarterbacks.
He's an all-time great, but he can never be the greatest because
That
he's
is
never
true.
won.
That is true.
And you could say, I know it's the same thing with basketball in terms of it's a team sport. And Dan Marino, I mean, he can only do so much. His defense can stink, but he can be great. And it's he just didn't win that way. But Mark Few, he gets to pick his players.
That's true.
Like he gets to basically pick his players to the point where he can recruit as hard as he wants on some of these players, and he still can't win.
That is accurate, and I think one of those things maybe he hasn't mastered something that I watched a lot of the first and second round games because they were on, and so and if you have small kids and they're in bed at 7 o'clock, you're watching the games at night, or you're talking or whatever, and so. One thing that I've noticed, if you've noticed a staple of a lot of games, of basketball games within this tournament, that doesn't happen during the regular season, is you see a lot of 50 to 40, maybe 60 to 50 games where they're very low scoring. And you often see that is because, the teams that go out are more focused on defense than an offense. And in addition, people are very nervous, I think, whenever, and the kids basically don't shoot well, right? They don't shoot well coming out initially in those first couple games. And so if you're one of these, that's like the formula if you're an underdog team. If you can keep the game low scoring, you are going to have a chance at the end of the game to make a run, and whoever is able to make those big shots in the last couple minutes is going to come out on top. And it seems like for whatever reason, the Gonzaga players, maybe because they beat everybody, by so much in the Western Coast Conference, that they don't have those type of games where they're like, okay, it's crunch time, somebody needs to take that big shot. Or we need not foul. Now, I did see, Chet Holmgren or whatever, the guy from Gonzaga, they had some weak fouls called on him, and he fouled out very early in that game. But it seemed like somebody like an Arkansas, I saw like Iowa State, they made it far in the tournament. They made it to the Sweet 16. They will also play the same formula of and they went from like 2 wins last year.
2 wins to 22.
To 22 wins and made it to the Sweet 16. If you're that coach, you're like, I got this job at least locked down for 5 years, just because you did that.
And you look at Oregon State, they made the Elite Eight last year, and they only won like 2 or 3 games this year.
Yeah, right, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's how, I don't know if it was the same team as far as seniors go and whatnot.
They only lost one player, I think, one senior.
That's crazy.
That is insane. It's incredible how year to year that works out. What was the first loss? The first loss for a number 1 team was Baylor, right? Baylor to North Carolina. Did you watch that game? Anybody see that game?
That might have been the best game of the tournament.
Yeah.
It was a great game. When Manic fouled out, like you're up by 25, but I think it was like maybe under 9 minutes, about 9 minutes.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And then they start coming.
Yeah, they came after him.
But if you're that guy in the locker room and you're watching that game, and like let's say they lost in overtime,
Right.
Let's say
His entire team comes back.
Do you come back in?
Oh,
Like, are you like yelling at that guy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I would be not happy with.
Or is he gonna have like his hands up in the air, like I left you when you're up by 25?
25, yeah. I can't.
Yeah.
Right.
What happened?
Was like Christ in the garden. He's like, you can only sleep for 1 hour. Come on, man, guys, just keep it awake here. You're not falling asleep. No, yeah, that was an incredible game. Baylor had all that momentum going in, and then they're just like, okay, never mind, we're not gonna play in overtime. Like, what happened there? I don't know, but that busted up a lot of brackets, I'm sure. And then North Carolina, now to the Final Four. And they maybe got an easy road after beating Baylor, but Baylor was the champion, right?
They were the defending champion.
So. You mentioned best games, favorite games.
Oh, yeah.
I think Davidson, Michigan State. I don't know if you saw that one. That was a fantastic game down the stretch. I mean,
yes, it was.
Michigan State is well coached. Davidson, they looked really well coached. They knew exactly what to do down the stretch, and just it's kind of amazing to see how many shots just they can just get to fall in the final minutes of games.
Yeah, and and everybody who's watching is like on their edge of their seat.
Yeah.
Why? Because they're like, it's gonna bust my bracket, or it's gonna be great. That's the why everybody loves March Madness. And I think this is why the NFL, I think, is whenever you get the people involved, invested, like that's what fantasy football has done for the NFL. Like everybody's like into the sports and the statistics. They're like, this is for my guy, and I want to cheer for it, and I'm gonna watch this game because I have a vested interest. With the brackets, every single time that a game's up, you're like, okay, I need Loyola Chicago to take out Ohio State. Come on, and we get on the edge of our seats, and we really love, and we see in crunch time who can play and who can't. Who can play and who can't. What was there was one other one. I thought Houston. Now I picked Arizona to win it all. And Houston I thought Houston might make it to the Final Four again.
I wanted them too.
But because they were a senior team.
Yeah.
But they ended up getting, a better coach team probably in Villanova. And maybe a better team all around in Villanova. But
I think Villanova or Houston plays the same game as Villanova. Villanova just plays that game better.
Yeah. That's very apt. I think in saying that.
Well, you made a face though, Ryan, when he said Chet Holmgren had some weak calls against him. What's that face for?
Well, I think in the other games that Gonzaga had played, the same exact things happened to players against. He actually got a couple flop warnings.
Oh, did he? Oh, so maybe that's why they were looking for it. Yeah. I didn't catch that because Memphis looked like they had a shot against Gonzaga.
And then
early
they had
on.
some bad clock management there.
Chet Holmgren looks like that guy, like that thing that they blow up in front of like the car dealerships. He's like the thing that's just like waving back and forth. He's like skinny, like he's very flexible, like he falls the line, as Ryan said. He kind of looks like that guy. But I agree with you. There's some weak calls in that game, but that's not the reason they lost that game.
No,
Arkansas was just a better team.
They were 100%. And I think I would think moving forward, it'll be interesting to see what Chet Holmgren's career in the NBA is like.
Is he graduating?
Is he not
know about yet?
Oh,
but
Drew
Timme is. Drew Timme is. He was 90.
Oh,
there he is. We haven't pulled up here. He was 90-7.
Oh, there he is. Yeah.
90-7 over like his career at Gonzaga.
Oh, yeah.
90-7, and he didn't win a national championship. How many players are like that? Not many.
Very few. Unless you were a UConn girl from 10 years ago.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that'd be interesting. Miami, when they beat Auburn, because that was a big one. I had Auburn in my Final Four. I think you mentioned that.
I was very upset.
So that game was one of those games where Auburn just didn't play any transition.
I know.
Right. Miami scored like 25 points on the fast break, and Auburn got one off the fast break.
Where's Jabari Smith at?
Yeah.
When your coach is saying that you're the best, and people know him to be one of the best players that's going to be in the draft this upcoming year.
Yeah.
And you better show up in these games.
Yeah.
I really like Cade Cunningham when he was going with Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
And he wasn't good last year.
Yeah.
He was not good last year in the tournament.
No.
And that team went out, I think, in the round of 32 as well, maybe.
Yeah, round of
and
32.
very
They
similar.
lost, Oregon State.
And I think that's I don't know if you need the best player in the tournament to be on your best player that's going into the NBA, the best prospect on your team.
Kentucky had the player of the year.
Yeah, and then look at
they
get
lost
out
first
first
round.
Who
round.
was the player of the year from Kentucky?
Oscar.
Oh, Tashibi.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you for saying his name.
Originally, Oscar Tashibi is originally from. He went to West Virginia. He was a couple years there, and I guess he transferred to Kentucky. But he's originally from Kennedy Catholic, which is my alma mater up in Sharon,
really?
Pennsylvania. Yeah. They have no problem recruiting there. But anyway, that's District 10, not Whitfield. But moving forward, I don't know that for a fact. Just for anybody out there listening to this podcast, I don't know if they actually recruit, but it's interesting how he got there anyway.
Don't tell Newcastle about that.
Yeah,
guy.
no,
don't tell Newcastle about that guy.
But ultimately, yes, I think what teams have learned, especially those teams that are looking for upsets, is that you got to play team ball. Right, you got to play team ball. If you got one guy that you're relying upon who's putting up 30, 40 points, we saw that with Steph Curry. But teams weren't focusing on Steph Curry until he hit the tournament and they realized, oh my, this kid can shoot. And they realized that they can't guard him. But when you have like some of these big name schools with big name players, they're like, okay, let's just focus on these guys and we'll play good team ball. And if we're close at the end, anything can happen. And that's, I think, what is happening to and these guys. Maybe they're not going as hard if they know they got a payday at the end of the road, right? They're not.
Yeah,
getting,
exactly.
They're not getting paydays in the tournament. They might get like some sponsorships, now that they have that type of
Yes.
thing, and they might get some followers on Instagram if
Yeah.
they go far enough.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if they're going out on draft day, they know that they're going to have a payday.
But with
so
college football, it's so different than how
Yeah.
it is with that because there's so many more teams that are involved,
Yeah.
and also you don't have players opting out like
Right.
you have bowl games. Like that's the playoff season basically
Right,
for college
right,
football.
right.
But it's never as exciting,
No.
never as exciting as March Madness.
Oh no, not at all. And it's so fun, like the atmosphere that they've created of sitting in a venue and watching game after game after, and they're all
Yes,
there.
exactly.
It's just a great atmosphere. Something that is, it's like they've taken the little kid atmosphere because if you're a kid playing grade school basketball in a tournament, and, there's games and you're like excited and you're getting candy from the concession stand and all that stuff in between games. They've taken that exact same environment and put it at a college level, high stakes, televised, and everybody loves it. Everybody loves it.
And it's like when you have colleges that have like 2,000 people and like weren't even verified on Twitter, like St. Peter's.
Right.
And they're competing for the same championship
Right.
as like teams like Kentucky. I mean, that's what makes it great.
Yeah, and they've got a shot.
Yes, they have an actual shot now. Yeah. And do you think this is too blue bloody of a Final Four, you guys? What do you think?
I think it's. I wanted a little bit more chaos in the Final Four because it was so chaotic the rest of the tournament. I wish it was like a Houston team or a Arkansas or obviously St. Peter's.
So you're saying like North Carolina doesn't feel like an
Yeah.
8 seed because they are a Power 5 school, right? That type of idea, or they're somebody who's nationally good every single year. But were you referencing the blue colors of the teams?
No, I'm just saying like the
Oh.
blue, like that, just like the Villanova, Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas,
You got
North
They all are blue.
They all are
They are
blue,
blue.
though.
I
You're
thought that's
right,
what you
you're
were
right,
referencing. Yeah, but you're just saying like they're the perennials year
Yeah,
after
those
year.
are like
Yeah.
I think how many? It's like some number of like 7 of like the last 11 national championships I think have gone through these schools. It's like something like
yeah, that
it's
makes
like
sense,
some of
though.
that kind of
Yeah.
number, like something about that. And it's like you see the same teams. I mean, it doesn't happen often where you get like this kind of matchups.
Yeah, right.
But it's interesting though. But who are you rooting for?
So I don't know. I probably Villanova. My wife is a Kansas State Wildcat, and their mortal enemies are the Kansas Jayhawks. So I cannot
Root for Kansas.
I cannot root for Kansas. Duke, I never liked Duke growing up, but I like Coach K kind of. You grow to respect a guy after a while, so many winning years. Because I'm a Pitt fan at heart, I guess, Pitt basketball growing up, and so. I'd be okay with Coach K going out on top. I think I don't want North Carolina to win. I think Kansas and North Carolina I don't want to win. I'd take Villanova or Duke. That would be mine.
Ryan has very strong feelings.
Tell me, Ryan. I want to hear it.
I don't. Something about Coach K. Like I
You're
don't wanna
anti,
go-
or you want it?
But he's like the biggest Pitt fan you'll ever see, the most passionate, most loyal.
I actually want Kansas.
Oh, these guys are giving some Bill Self. Okay.
Bill Self.
Why do you want Kansas
Against
to win?
two though. Who do you want to win this Duke UNC
I want
game?
I want to see UNC beat Duke, and that'd be Coach K's final game. I think that'd be hilarious.
UNC. Yeah. No. Okay. There you go.
Well, if you're looking back though, the reason this is my last resort bracket. It's like if all else
Fails.
all
Yeah.
else fails, this is what might happen. And this is what I did last year too with Baylor winning. That's why I got second last year. But I think if you look at the storybooks, like what a story that would be.
Yeah.
If Coach K goes
Wow, on
out
top,
with
yeah.
a win.
Yeah.
But what a story that'd be if he went out with a loss to UNC. As you said, that's why it's one of the biggest games in a long time.
Yeah.
In college basketball.
Do we know which one's the first game? Do we know? I'm sure we have time.
Coach K has to be the last game.
Yeah, you would
That has
think.
to
You
be
would
the last
think.
game.
But yeah, I think I can check that up for us real quick. But I think it.
They're on TBS this year. Can you have the college championship on TBS?
Yeah, right. That game is at 8:49 Eastern. So that sounds like the second game. 8:49 Eastern.
Yeah.
That sounds like the second.
You have
game.
like a Seinfeld episode come on after the game's over. Something like that. I think it's actually the new Impractical Jokers season episode.
That
It comes
season
after
episode
that.
started. Yeah,
It
you
comes
gotta
after
get that.
Is that True TV?
I think it's on all three networks. It's like on all three networks.
Oh, are they doing?
Like True TV, TBS, and TNT. I think.
Do you
it's
think
on
they're
all
doing are they doing a simultaneous game cast or something like
Oh,
that?
I don't
where,
know.
like where the Manning brothers are calling
Manning
it
brothers,
from
that'd be
fun.
somewhere else.
Yeah. One of my final question.
Yeah.
Would be, like when these games, because you as a religion teacher.
Yeah.
Do you ever pray about the games like who you want to win a game, or is that wrong? That's honestly.
That's a great question. All right. Yeah, so it is tempting. I will answer this question, maybe not with talking about this, but I prayed for the Pittsburgh Steelers to win and the Jacksonville Jaguars to lose earlier this year, and that's how we got the Steelers into the playoffs. But I prayed with the caveat. I think this is something this is what I would like to see happen, Lord. But your will be done, right? Your will be done. So I think that ultimately, which is what Christ does in the garden, right? In the garden, he says, you know what, like, I am scared to die, right? Like, I'm scared to die, and if it be your will, like, let this cup pass from me, he says, like, let me not die, but your will be done. And I think when it comes to watching sports, you know, because it can be a tendency to have sports be like an idol in our lives, watching and stuff like that nature. And I know that's something that maybe I've struggled with in the past and probably still do in the future. But when we make them like the source of our mood, or like the outcome, the happiness, you know, the happiness outcome, you know, and it's okay to have a vested interest. I'm not saying that, but when it's like the thing and it interrupts our constant conversation with God throughout the day, you know, that's when it becomes an issue. And so if I'm praying for monetary gain, because maybe I put money on the game, or which I didn't. Actually, I don't do that at this moment in my life. You know, and then if we pray for it just for like our happiness and stuff like that, I think that is something. But maybe like you know somebody in the game, right? Maybe you wanted to see someone play well, like Isaiah Wilson or something like that, who I would have taught. You know, like with Richmond, if I wanted to pray for him to have a good game, you know, to enjoy himself, all that stuff. That's all fine and good, you know. So. Yes, don't use God to affect the outcomes of games, because he won't do it.
Yeah. Well, that's a great answer. That's a great answer.
Well, thank you.
He lets the better team win.
Yeah.
Sometimes maybe he's teaching a lesson. Maybe he's teaching somebody a lesson. Don't put all your stock in this, but who knows?
You got Bill Belichick winning six Super Bowls.
6 Super Bowls, yeah. Tom Brady winning 7, yeah.
What do you think about Tom Brady coming back?
Good for him. I don't know. It's a quick turnaround, and then his coach retired. So
that's strange. That's strange. But we appreciate you coming on today. We always enjoy having you.
Yeah, well, I'll come back anytime.
And that about does it for this episode of our North Catholic Athletics podcast. We'll be back next week with an update on the spring sports. And
remember, we are your home for everything North Catholic Athletics.